guys, welcome to Paleo Greenbird here, and today I'm going to work a slab. I bought a bunch of slabs from Will Self. I'm going to probably edit that out, but Will Self, he sells a lot of obsidian, really good price, and really good product. And the one thing I like is that every time I order from him, he always sends probably, I don't know, I don't want to set a standard, but like 6 or 7 extra pieces for me, you know, because I do order a lot. And I think that's to cover breakage. Let me get a better grinder here. And, you know, usually there's a couple that get broken, but I got really lucky this time. Nothing was broken, so everything he sent is workable. I got this little blade, which was one of the extras. I think this might be just something that kind of came off the saw, and he figured he'd send out, but I'll make a little knife out of it. I prefer the smaller stuff, to be honest with you. You'll probably see a video coming up shortly where I have like an 8 or 9 inch blade, and I don't really like working those, to be honest with you, because one, it's kind of senseless. I mean, what are you going to do with an obsidian knife that long? Try and do anything that's going to break, you know. So, what really is the point? No pun intended. So these already come ground, these preforms, but I'm going to grind them anyway. And the tough spots are going to be where you can see the where it doesn't look ground, little chips that came off, maybe during shipping, or you know, maybe I did that, who knows. Those would be the tough spots. But once we break into this, we'll see what kind of color we have. I did sharpen up my tool just a little bit. I mean, you can tell it's still pretty dull. I don't really obsess over having super sharp pressure flakers. I don't think it's important. I like a little bit of grip, because you figure the more rounded it is, the more surface space it's going to grab. But you do want it a little bit sharp. You don't want it completely round. So I'm going to start with the tip. I'm going to support it with this index finger here. And you can see there's a smooth spot there, so I'm going to kind of work down a little bit here. Let's just make sure you can see that. See that clear spot? That's kind of good. That's going to be hard to work, but normally I might try and grind that out, but I'm not worried about it, being that it's the first pass and it's so close to the tip. And there is let's see if you can see that. You can see where it does ride up towards the tip. There you go. You can see that there. Right. There's enough where I can get some grip. And I'm going to do some shaping on this anyway, so I'm not too concerned. Trying to keep my good habits, keep my support hand, I guess you would say, against my left leg, close to the pad. Take my hand that's going to use the tool, push in and scoop away. There we go. Good flake. And I'm just going to do that all the way down. Trying to space out a little bit so that I don't know if you can see it or not, but you'll see the zigzag kind of effect. And the reason that I do that is so that if I happen to get a short flake or a bad flake, I can come back and I still have a delta to work off of to drive a flake. And this is a homemade flaker, so you know, I don't know. I usually jack up on it a little bit, but I'm going to try and get a little bit lower on it, choke down a bit, because I think that'll give me better flakes. Down and out. that. Came all the way across.
Not that you have to come all the way across. If you get halfway, you're fine. Okay, now I'm to that spot. But there's enough I think I can grab onto. Let's give it a go. I'm going to angle it a little bit because
where there's that clear spot, I do have some ground edge here, but I want to try and blast off sort of in, you know, I don't know if the camera's picking this up or not, but kind of this direction so that I can defeat that spot that's not ground. Hopefully I'm successful and I can show you in a second. There we go. Yep. Well, sort of. It definitely drove enough to where I can get it from the other side, but I'm going to kind of be a perfectionist here and try to get that off. Yep, there we go. So you can see where that low edge was. Everything looks pretty clean right now. Try and make this a quick video because I know a lot of my videos are long. Ooh, there we go. That was aggressive, but took a lot off. When I'm taking these flakes too, you can kind of see I'm not taking them one after another. Most of you probably know how to pressure flake, but for some of you that are interested, like I know Bradley, you're probably interested in this. I try and space it a little bit. So where this delta is right here, I'm going to push that up to the notch of my pad. Space it out. It seems like it's going to be too far away, but trust me, the way the flake feathers, it'll be just fine. So just take a few of these. Now I've done a bunch of chatting. I'm just going to take some flakes. I might even fast forward this in the video. We'll see. And I'm using mostly arm, but you can squeeze with your leg too. You probably should. It's the best way to do it. To push instead of pushing with your arm. That's best practice. Yeah, it's way easier on your arms. So first pass on this side. Now I'll say to take the first pass on the other side. And then it's just rinse and repeat.
we go. There's our first pass on the first side. Now we gotta do this one.
I am gonna grind again. You don't always need to, but I'm gonna. Fix this real quick. There's a thick spot on this other side. I need to get rid of that.
So you see I'm going halfway. That's really all that matters. As long as you're going past that center line, you're good.
You can get it from the other side. Just try not to break it. What you don't want to do is you don't want to put a lot of pressure right here. That'll snap it. Obviously, I mean, you can think about the physics. If you're pushing on the inside of that, it's gonna break it. So try and think of a bar chord. Think of mostly these two fingers. You do need a little bit of support on the middle finger, but just not a lot. Just supporting the rock, not pressing on it. You're just keeping it from moving. That's the best way to think about it. Oh yeah, did some nice flakes. That was a little short. That's okay.
So you can see it's not even. It's still wavy, and you want to be careful of that because where you see the thick spots,
You know, just use your intuition to know how to support it without breaking it. So now I'm going to do this other side. There's no real hard and fast rules when it comes to that. I mean, you'll be able to tell if something is super thick in one spot and super thin on another. Obviously, you know where to hit it and where not to hit it. In fact, I need to correct this one spot right here before we go on. There we go. Just too thick. Don't want to take a chance on blasting it off. Yep, just driving flakes off. Trying to meet them on the other side. And that curvy part of the blade is the most difficult. There we go. I think I got past it. trying to leave myself some space so I have deltas. Okay, so here's a good example of why I do that. If you see that, there's a flake that I took right here, but there's an island up here, so I need to get that off. There's only two ways to do that. Either I can blast from an angle, use a delta, or try and get it on the second pass, which I am not good at getting it on the second pass. Oh shoot. Oh no. There we go. Nope, still missed it. But I still left myself some deltas, so I should be able to get this on this one right here. There we go. Yep, you can tell I got it. Perfectly clean. I don't know if the camera's picking that up or not. I can't tell through my safety glasses, but if not, you'll just have to take my word for it. Oh, I found another island up here on the tip. Let's take care of that. And that's a good reason to leave those deltas, because if you end up with an island that you didn't realize you have, I mean, when I say deltas, it's basically a platform. You have a platform to take, to pluck off what you have. So here we go. So this side's skinned. This side's skinned. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a second pass. A lot of times, second pass is all you need. After that, you can zigzag it. Depending upon how thin you want it, and what shape you want it. I think we'll be able to get this one with 2 passes, and then maybe a zigzag. Excuse me. Speaking of which, I do not normally work obsidian inside. It's not really the best thing to do because of the dust. But tonight I'm kind of jonesing out, and that's what I'm doing. But I would recommend working obsidian outside. I would recommend working every stone outside, to be honest with you. I never used to work rock inside. Even with a fan running and stuff like that, I mean, I could have a fan running right now, but that's basically just a security blanket to make it feel better. Doesn't do much. You need to be outside where you get some real ventilation. Ooh. It's pretty thin. I hope I don't snap this. Took off a big flake, but it's a lot deeper than the rest of the preform. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up, try and fix that. Try not to get steps. I mean, you can still get steps in hinges, pressure flaking. It's no different than percussion. If you get a bad flake, it's a bad flake. I'm going to flip this. Go from the other side. Just trying not to snap this. I mean, you're susceptible to a lot of shock, so you really have to be careful where you're, make sure you're supporting it, make sure you're not putting pressure where something's going to snap it in half. Especially when you're pushing these flakes off, make sure you're going down and out. If you're going too much in, or if you're in too shallow, not deep enough, you'll snap it. I mean, if you've napped slabs, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you'll figure it out. Sometimes you just go shallower than others, and sometimes you go deeper. There's really no hard and fast excuse me, rule. You have to figure it out. But the good thing is that when you make your passes, you know, you see where the thick spots and where the thin spots are. You hit the thick spots. It's just like percussion. When you see those low spots, you take them out. You've got to take them out. You know you do. It's just a different type of approach. That's all. And I will do some more videos on this. Okay, so this side's thinner than this back side, so now it's time to switch it up. Go back to the back side. This is going to be a nice little knife. You don't necessarily always have to work straight down. Well, if you're good, you do, but you know, don't focus on that. Focus on where the low spots are and take those out. I mean, once you get proficient, more proficient than I am, all those low spots will be very consistent. So you'll be able to just work straight up and down the preform. And every once in a while, I get lucky and that happens too. But sometimes, you know, you just have to work with what happens. Like I always say, it's kind of like throwing a football. There just is no real 100% solution to solving the problem. You just have to practice, 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 and you just sort of start to get to the point where you feel it. Oop, that was a bad. Hear that crushing? Yeah, that's bad. Ugh. That's the one thing I don't like about working obsidian. It's so messy. It's all over. Like I'm gonna have to put these pants in the wash. I'm not even gonna be able to shake them off. They're just. That's it. So looking for high spots, and I'm just taking those high spots. Well, they're low spots because I have them the other direction, but you know what I mean. They're platforms. They're basically spots that are higher than the center line. So I flip them, pop them off. And I'm just going to do this until either I get a good edge or it's thin enough to zigzag. But when you get thin like this, you want to make sure you're actually driving flakes and not just getting hinges. I mean, I suppose technically it doesn't really matter, but it's going to make your point look bad, and well, if you're sharpening it and resharpening it, it will certainly affect you. Because, as we know, you cannot work into a step or into a hinge unless there's enough rock there that you feel you can undercut it, which is never going to be the case with a slab. Get back on my leg. Good habits. Still being careful of my center line. It's still important. Even though I haven't zigzagged yet. And of course, don't forget about the base. Ooh, that was close. Sometimes you have to flip it back, even though you're working one side. If you see a thick spot, you need to take care of it. Alright, so we're getting there. Just trying to get it as thin as we possibly can before we zigzag. Otherwise, you'll lose space. I mean, it doesn't have to be super, super thin, in my opinion. I like the convexity. So here we are. There's a little mini knife blade. And this could be, you could take those edges down a little bit more. I'm kind of being in a hurry, but I'm going to take them anyway. I'll lose a little bit, but that's alright. I won't lose much. So we're just going to take a tiny pluck off the side. Let's try the other side. That side's slipping. There we go. Then every time we take this pluck, it's a platform. Right? There we go. This will be a thin little blade, but And again, you could skin this down a lot more and you would retain a little bit more width than what I'm going to get. But since this is such a skinny blade, I figured, you know, why bother. And I'm just flipping back and forth. You can see
the platforms that has made, I hope. Yep, you can see like the thick spots, obviously, and then you see the thin spot, you can see where that platform is.
That's what we're after. And I'm going to try and hit as close to the edge as I can, just so I don't lose as much as, you know, as possible. But sometimes when you're working with thicker pieces, it doesn't matter. You can hit closer, you can hit inside a little more, and it doesn't matter. But I want to make sure we end up with something usable. Oop, that was crushing. Gets a little more tricky as you get to the tip. Gotta be careful that you don't snap it. Yep, this one needs an extra flake on this one side. Tip's a little bit thick. I should have thinned this tip out a little bit. I hope I don't break it off. I hope I don't jinx myself, but I think I'll be okay. Just taking small flakes at this point, just trying to get rid of that edge. Zigzagging that edge. Small flakes. And sometimes you need to take two on the same side. Just look at the platforms and read them. If you need to take a second one, take a second one. I mean, once you've been napping, you'll see, you'll be able to tell by the way an edge looks if you need to take another flake or not. Hook thing on the tip. I'm just going to blast it off. There we go. Touch it up. And we will come back and touch up this blade. So I know it looks a little bit wonky right now. Probably quite a bit wonky. Alright.
So there's this edge here. Pretty good. I don't know if the camera's picking this up or not. And the lighting is terrible down here. Once it warms up, I'll get back outside. But there's the blade edge. Now we just have to get the back edge.
Which some would argue isn't as important, but I like the back edge just as sharp as the front edge because you never know when you need to work the knife the opposite direction, especially if you're going to make something functional. So I'm going to look for a place to start, a platform. I think I see one. Although I'm going to start here at the tip. I see something at the tip here. Looks attractive. It's a little bit thick, and that's exactly why I'm taking it. I want to blast off as much as I can. Because as thin as I can get that tip, it'll prevent shock. Alright, so now I'm going to start at the base. Again, just going to zigzag back and forth. Every time I take a flake, makes a platform on the other edge. Trying to take off as little as I can so I don't lose any width, or as little width as possible. You're gonna lose some, of course. That was a good flake. Make sure you're not pushing too much on that finger. Especially now, because this side is so much thinner than the tip, because you've been thinning this side with a zigzag. So, you can bust this in half real easy. That's interesting. there, at least for now. I'll go ahead and grind this off. Now you're probably saying, why do you grind this off when it's so sharp? But if you're going to use this for anything, you always have to resharpen. Clink around, hit things. Alright, we worked a slab. Hope you enjoyed it, guys. I wish you could see the color of this, but it's so dark in this dungeon. Nice piece of rainbow. I can even see it in the camera. Wish you could. Ooh, almost dropped it. That's not good. Alright guys, Pelly Greenbird signing out.